There we go. You guys all see that okay? Yeah? Good, because everyone's muted. You can't answer me. I got it. And I'm not looking at your faces anymore because I'm looking at the screen. So I'm going to share everything that we're going to talk about. But basically, we wanted to have this webinar today to go over some exciting new stuff that we have invested in here at BASC to help our clients. I know that sounds like maybe a little, yeah, sure you did. But we've had a lot last year with our clients, and I'm sure you guys with your own and running your own businesses, a lot of issues through COVID, you know, a lot of struggles, a lot of things going on. But one thing was pretty certain at the end, you know, hitting around November, December, and actually a lot later this year than normally people will come to me for obvious reasons. I think when, you know, the economy started to pick back up in the, you know, early fall, that people were getting back into their businesses and thinking like, hey, what, you know, what's going on? There was, you know, a lot of real misunderstanding or people just wanting to really understand, hey, what's my tax situation really going to look like? And all these different things that have gone on, like the CARES Act, not to bring up politics, but the election freaked a lot of people out. What's going to happen with taxes this year, last year, this year? And, you know, it's been a little bit of a kind of a roller coaster, I think, the last couple months, trying to get people to, you know, kind of calm, and even us trying to figure out and get all the new guidance that's coming out from the IRS onto what all these changes that came out like December 27th mean and so forth. So I have been for a long time, you know, I've always offered tax planning to my clients, and usually I'm kind of picky about who I come to and offer it to because it's pretty labor intensive. And I'd like to be sure that I can help people before I even ask them to go through that time and expense to actually go through that tax planning process. And I know some of you have, but I always knew there had to be a better way, because I don't think a lot of people really understand what's going into the tax planning process. So if you think about, you know, we're keeping your books, doing your accounting and stuff. But when we start talking about tax planning, you know, or people just come and say, hey, what am I going to owe this year? What do you think? What's the ballpark? Like, yeah, I wish I was that type of human, because I'd be really rich and not doing this right now. So we have to look at your financials. We have to understand a little bit more about what's going on in the background. And we learn a lot as we're doing them every month. And then we have to forecast what the rest of your year is going to look like. And all businesses are different. Some are steady throughout the year. Some decline and pretty much go dormant, you know, November, December. Some spike at the end of the year. So you have to take all that into consideration and put together a pretty comprehensive forecast. Forecasts are just that. They're forecasts. They're based on a series of assumptions, which may or may not be 100% or pan out 100%, but we do the best we have with the information we have and that the client feels they're trending towards. So just that forecasting process, I mean, it's very manual, so it takes a lot of time. Then from there, what we were doing is actually mocking up tax returns for people based on assumptions on the rest of what's going on in their life. Because, you know, 90% of what we're dealing with is pass-through entities. There's a few C Corps and stuff out there, especially that I deal with. But for the most part, a lot of the fear and everything comes from everybody that's getting all that pass-through income. And, you know, the money spent in the business, it's got zero balance, but all of a sudden I have all this profit. I got to deal with, you know, tax situations at the end of the year. So we go through it, you know, and some people have rental properties, or they have another business they're 50% owner in, and they know they're going to get a K1, but I'm only looking at your business that we handle for you. So we have to ask questions, find out, you know, what those other pieces of the puzzle are, so that we can mock that return and get to see what that net effect is going to be on your taxes. So having, you know, understanding that process, I think, it's been difficult for us to, you know, communicate, because it does seem like it should be a fairly simple thing, but it really isn't. But I always knew there had to be a better way. And, you know, with the technology these days, and being the, you know, the tech person that I like to think I am, and bringing into our business so that I can help you guys, I finally did find something that we decided to license. is artificial intelligence software. Every year it's built in with all the new tax codes, so it's always kept up to date, okay? And it's really cool stuff because it takes not just some of the guesswork out of it, but it also builds in a lot of more advanced planning sooner. So we can start planning in January, not November. And that sounds crazy, but I'm going to show you how it works. And it can also aggregate multiple businesses. A lot of our clients do have multiple businesses, 1, 2, 3, or sometimes they have rental properties and stuff. So really seeing what's going on, it takes a lot of work to bring all that together. So we made this whole thing that I wanted to show you guys is about this product and how it's going to help with streamlined tax planning. And to really support our clients is a big part of it that we're rolling out for everyone. It's free. It's not like, I mean, there'll be portions of it that will be paid, but we're making sure that the information that we can give back to you is going to be as good as it can get based on the information that we have, right? And you already know that if you're working with us, usually every quarter we're sending out quarterly tax estimates to you so that you guys can stay on top of if you're profitable, what is the tax situation going to look like. But keep in mind, those type of tax estimates or forecasts, whatever, are based on one thing or two things, basically. The current state of your books that quarter. So what was your profit, your bottom line, and your effective tax rate from the year before. If we did your taxes, then we've done that, or we get it from you from the past. That's it. It's simple math, multiplication. It's not definitely not rocket science. So, but it was as good as we can get, and to help people stay on top of it. So, and honestly, when you get those little coupons from your tax return that say, here's your estimated tax payments, those are good because the IRS says if you pay those, even if your tax liability is twice that, we're not going to penalize you because you paid what we asked you to pay. Well, that's great and all, but what if you're building a business and you double your business? Do you really want to wait to find out that you owe twice as much? Probably not. So that's why we kind of tried to compensate that a little bit, just to keep people a little bit more in tune every quarter. Some of you look at them, some of you ask about them, and some of you put them in the revolving trash drawer. You know, I mean, I don't really know what happens after that, but the importance and the, you know, because we spend time on those every quarter. So we wanted to even refine that process. So this is how the streamlined piece that we're talking about. I'm going to show you a demo on how this works, but I'm going to try and describe it first. So just to give you a little basis so you know what you're looking at. So this product basically would integrate with your QuickBooks accounts. And if obviously we're managing your books, we have that ability to integrate. It is a QuickBooks Online exclusive integration. However, we have manual options, as you can see over here, for manual data entry. So if you were in desktop, your account manager would just input your P&L at the end of the month to keep it updated. So it has workarounds for that, although it's not as nice as automation. We like automation better. So that's really cool. So we have that connection, and most of our clientele are on QuickBooks Online these days. It's kind of becoming the new standard. It also allows us, as you can see down here, to, and this is how the artificial intelligence works. Like, great, uses the connection to your QuickBooks to help with forecasting. And then we also can attach your tax returns or tax return data. Again, it doesn't have to actually be the return, although that's always the best information. We can always hand input certain types of data. And it learns based on that history, and especially over time, you know, what is going into your tax return and all the other little things that are there, whether you have 2 kids or 3 kids or 8 kids, you know, whatever the case may be. It's understanding that and what you're now bringing your business and your personal life together so that we get a much better forecast of what your tax liability is. So it's really cool. And that's just the front end of it. Okay, so this gives you some insight. You know, we talk about real-time numbers. You know, this is about the data sync, and this is what it'll look like. And what's really cool too about this software is if you do have multiple businesses, as you can see here, there's 3 across the top. This software allows us to aggregate them into one place. And if we were doing tax planning in the past, and any of you that have multiple businesses or know someone that do, how hard that is to complete all those forecasts and aggregate the data, then mock up the business returns and then mock up the personal returns, all of that. Well, the software is going to do that for us. So it's aggregating all of those businesses together. And if it's synced, it's constantly giving us a real-time look at what's going on. Next thing I want to talk about is all about timing. We talk about tax planning, like I said earlier. We were always trained, even as accountants, basically, to look and, our tax planning time of year is not tax season, right? And some people are like, but isn't that the best time, the beginning of the year? What do I do this year? Unfortunately, we can't. So it ends up becoming more of a second half of the year. Some people are proactive, but for the most part, I would say a good portion of it is all done in fourth quarter. So when it's all done in fourth quarter, you have a finite amount of time to prepare, to do all the work that needs to go into it. And, with everybody's schedule, sometimes we have questions. It takes some time to answer. We put that together. Then we go through your situation, look for, tax solutions to help mitigate or tax mitigation strategies. By then it's November, right? So we're talking about what quick things can we do at the end of the year and then possibly change for the following year at a very late time. It's been the best that we could get out in the industry. That's just pretty much how it's done. There might be firms out there that do 100% tax planning, but it's not as efficient when you kind of have a piece of everything, the accounting, the monthly, all that stuff together. So what this software will also do is help identify areas of potential savings in the tax world as it aggregates it. Okay. And that'll seem a little odd at first, but like I said, we're going to do a quick demo. And with that, we're going to start to be able to see real time and basically tweak it every month, because it's going to get smarter and smarter every month that you're giving it real data. In January, we have 1 month of real data and 11 months of projection. In February, we have 2 months of real data and 10 months of projection. And it starts to fine tune. So the projections become more and more accurate because we get more and more real data. It's learning all the trends that we don't have to in the background go figure out. How many times, I don't know, if so many people have called me this month and probably right before Christmas with these, we call them the what if scenarios. What if I sell my car and buy another one? Am I going to be taxed on the trade-in? What is that going to do to my tax liability? If I go out and buy this piece of equipment, what is that going to do to my tax liability? It's the what if, right? What if my wife goes back to work and makes $50,000 a year in a W-2? What's that going to do to our tax situation? Is it worth it? Is it worth it to collect Social Security? The what ifs are endless, right? And we get them all the time. And the sad part is, as much as we want to answer your questions, you'll hear us say, well, it depends. They're not all that easy to answer, because we have to go back. If you're going to trade in a car and sell it, is it completely depreciated? Do we have to recapture that? Are you upside down in a note? There's so many factors that in the background that go into that to get to that answer. The nice part is inside the software here has a built-in simulator where you can run unlimited scenarios on donations, medical, dental. It's endless. This is only one tab you're looking at as far as personal deductions. There's business ones as well, retirement. It's actually really cool. And it'll tell you if that's how that scenario, what you decide, what if, is what's going to happen if you do that. I find that really cool because it is a very big thing that happens with us. And this software is keeping track of things of savings potential. Like I said, it's going to always be looking for different ways for tax advantage savings. So that's built into it. There's this, it's called the path to zero. Of course, nobody wants to pay taxes if they don't have to, but there are legal, legitimate ways. Everybody's like, how does Trump do it? Or how does this big corporation never pay any taxes? And blah, blah, blah. We hear that all the time. Are they just buying their way into no taxes? Well, at the end of the day, nobody really pays no taxes. We pay sales tax, we pay income tax, we pay, lots of taxes everywhere. when we start talking about income taxes and stuff and the effect of our business on it, because of the complexity of it, it's harder to see where those, if I turn this dial, what's going to happen. So what this path to zero does, and you're looking at a very surface picture here, but behind each one of these boxes is basically suggestions on how to leverage certain things, and it gives you multiple ways to do it, how to implement it, what the audit risk is, the IRS code that's tied to it. It's very detailed in order to save this money. So if this is your current tax projection and there's like all these ways to save money to get it as close to zero as possible, that's what you want, right? So hence called the path to zero. We're going to come back to this part because we're going to talk about what's free, but I want to give you a demo of the program. Let me see. I just want to make sure it didn't time me out. So it didn't. Okay. Fictitious program here. Fictitious person named Jennifer. We all know Jen, right?
Hi, guys.
She's our fictitious business owner here in our demo program. Okay. And this is kind of what the dashboard looks like. You know, it's like, oh, cool, dials and, you know, graphs and all that stuff. But we're going to kind of walk through what you're looking at in terms of kind of what I just walked through. So up here, you're going to get in the top upper left-hand corner, you're going to get your, kind of looks like a gas meter, right? Right now, Jennifer's projected to owe $32,000. And you can see down here, $32,000 in federal taxes, $6,000 in state taxes. She probably just crapped her pants, but, you know, not really sure. You know, it does give you glimpses of what your income looks like and some other stuff, you know, that are all up here, which is all fine and dandy. And if you look down here, there's two pieces on the screen. One is your business summary and one is your personal summary. So this is where we start to bring everything together. This person, Jen, she has two businesses. She has this business, a consulting company called First Company Consulting, we're naming it, and Joe's Repair Shop. I don't know who Joe is, but she'll tell us later. It's my attempts at jokes, guys. Okay. Right back here, this little tab over here says companies. When you come over here and you click on these, you can see this is our integration. Okay. Now down here on the bottom, we can tell it how frequently we want it to update. This is a very, very cool piece. Now, when we do projections, we do them one way, okay? And they're not always 100% consistent because we're human, right? But there are multiple real projection strategies, and these are them. Linear, there's rolling averages, and then there's look backs, right? That's why it says use last year. Then there's also cash and accrual, because not all of us do cash, but most of us do. If you do an accrual, your situation looks a little bit different. So this allows us to look at the projection strategy. This company is being synced to QuickBooks. It's pulling the data real time. When we look at Joe's repair shop here, he doesn't have QuickBooks. He's old school. He's doing everything on a, you know, legal pad and paper, and, you know, he gets the job done, whatever the case may be. You know, we're not part of that, but he gives us the information at the end of the month. And what we're going to do is come back to our dashboard. One of these is integrated and one of these is hand entered. So when you look at First Company here, you can see, we're going to go into this edit screen. This is the forecasting screen. And what's cool about this is you'll see the forecast based on the forecasting model that we chose, but we can override anything we want. So this could be, for example, you know, someone that's building a business, you know, sometimes your growth isn't always very linear, and they just landed a big contract and they know they got this huge amount of money coming in the fourth quarter. So they feel that their income is actually going to be a lot higher. We can adjust that. So there's a very specific adjustments we can make, even though they don't feel maybe their expenses are going to change all that much. So we can tweak the back end on this forecast as you, the business owner, have more information, or we have more information outside of what the program is using as its own forecast, which is really cool, because sometimes at the end of the year, that is what we want to do. What happens if I, you know, buy all this $20,000 in advertising, or I do this, or I do that? And we can actually build those in here. So pretty cool. We are going to go back to our dashboard here. And for Joe, it's a very similar process. It's just entered manually because they don't keep QuickBooks, or Xero is the other program it will sync with. But we don't like Xero, so we don't encourage it. Over here in your personal summary, this can be populated two ways. It has a thing it'll walk us through here. Is like we can tell they're married filing joint, they have no dependents, or they have 2 kids, what state, income adjustments. It goes through a whole thing. So if I want to and do this all manually, I can. Or I can come into the vault here. We can, and I did not do that. Obviously, I'm not disclosing any tax returns here, but we can upload a tax return. The software reads it and populates things where it needs to be. And like I said, over time, it does learn. So, but we can tweak it because theoretically, we all can have changes that weren't there last year that are here this year. A child, a marriage. There's lots of things. And I know some of you on the line right now are going to be going through that this year. So that allows us to look at this and say, now what's going to happen? You know, I'm getting married. My wife makes this much money. I'm used to this, and we can adjust that in here along with your business and now re-look at what your tax liability is going to look like. So it's very like, it's just so real time. It's really cool. That simulator that we talked about earlier, I'm just going to pop over to that. As you can see, it looks a lot like it did in the screenshot there, but you can click through all these what if scenarios. There's so many of them that we can do. And obviously some of them will require some back end calculations, probably from us or yourself to, fill in these boxes, which is okay. At least it's allowing us the place to make those adjustments. If you're considering adding retirement to your business, what's the best way to go? It allows us to look at those tax credits you might take advantage of. Health savings accounts. They build in almost quite a bit. And every year, as tax things change, the system is adapting. And the only thing it's not taking into consideration, like when you go into credits and stuff, is a lot of the specialty credits. It'll give you energy credits, that credits, but it's not going to cover all the CARES Act stuff and all that because it's all temporary. So it's probably not worth the programming that's usually built into a lot of what we're doing. So, but the simulator is really cool because this is where you can come in and say, well, what happens, if I do this, then we could do that. Someone might say, what happens if I buy this rental property and I'm going to take out this mortgage? This is how much I expect to get. Is it worth it? Is it going to help me tax wise? Well, that wouldn't go into this part of the simulator. That would go into here, and we'd add a rental property and just forecast how a rental property might affect you if you add that on. So some of it's done in the simulator, some of it's done in the back end for the business side. But again, every time we make those changes, they're great. You may decide, okay, I'm not going to buy Joe's repair shop anymore, so we could just delete it right out of here. It's nothing stuck. The really cool stuff is when, what I'm going to show you too is what you guys are going to see and what we're setting up right now is everybody that we're doing accounting with, we are setting up this platform for, okay? But you won't see this. You won't see the dashboard. You won't have control over that, okay? What we're substituting is the feeding of the information to get things more accurate, and then a push report. Let's see if it brings one up here. Obviously, it'll look a little bit more populated. We have very raw data in here that will go out to you quarterly that will summarize all of this stuff, that it's reading as of now. This is your projected revenue. This is your projected expenses, whatever. Go through the whole thing. This is your personal summary. So I'll have a business summary, a personal summary, and then a tax projection at the end. As you can see, this is where the final tax projection, this is what you guys would see. And this isn't by quarter. This is as of the time this pushes. The data and forecasting is already being done throughout the end of the year. So it's not just like giving you a quarterly, here's what you'll owe on the profits this quarter, because you may lose money in Q3. It's constantly projecting. So when you see this, it's not for the quarter. This is where you're trending as of today. So as of January, this is how Jen's trending for 2021. Okay, that's kind of what this is saying. She just said yuck and she asked for a raise because she didn't hear that. So this is what you guys will get in your inbox every quarter. Yeah, we'll release it every quarter. When we do your quarter end, about 21 days after, these will get pushed out. And then from there, hopefully they spark more intelligent conversation rather than it's not just a number of here's your estimated taxes, go online and pay it here if you want to. It's got more insightful information that we can then build on if we need to. So that's what you guys will see. I'm showing you the dashboard because we're going to get to that part in a minute. The planning section, where all the excitement happens. I'm going to click on something in here. You start talking about what I said in here is like different ways, strategy benefits, the difficulty to implement. And trust me, there are ones that'll come in here that are all the way out here, and audit risk is all the way out here. But they tell you not only how difficult they are to implement, if there's a deadline to implement them. And we get into a lot of that with retirement planning and stuff, how aggressive the tactic is, how likely it is to trigger an audit. It gives you all the, different publications for the IRS, description of what it is, different options of what would happen if you had this type of expense and what you would save. So it goes into quite a bit detail, just kind of showing you the surface level, but that's what the planning section will do. And the idea is that it's not going to solve everything. Nothing replaces human intelligence, and is my belief. I don't care, about AI. It's never going to replace human intelligence. So I always believe that there's human intervention that needs to happen if you want it. If you were Jen, you might be like, now I see why maybe that $2,500 would have been worth it. But you're getting a lot of that. So that's kind of the exchange. If we come back to our little presentation here, I'll just kind of wrap it up with the final slide, since nobody really interrupted me anyway, and then let you guys ask questions. So this is how we're rolling this out. Yes, everything is named after rockets. Sorry, that's just me.
Real quick, actually, Mike had a question in the comments. Do you want me to ask it now or wait?
If he doesn't mind waiting, I'll just go through this, and then we'll just have open questions since it's the last piece of information. Is that okay?
Cool.
I'm not looking at the comments, so thanks for that information. I'm looking at a different screen. Okay, so we're rolling this out, and trust me, it's valuable whether it's the free portion that we're giving you or not. Like, I felt it was important enough to get better information out there, and I'll tell you right now, there's nobody in Arizona that is doing this. I'm sure it'll get more and more popular as time goes on. I'm an early adopter of technology, so that's why I'm in on this really early. So I want to be that valuable. So when you guys want to leave me and you go somewhere else and be like, oh, you mean you're not going to tell me how to save money all year long? I mean, really? That's what my last person did. So I'm just saying. So nobody in Arizona is doing this right now. There are people doing it out in the country, I'm sure, but it's not that prevalent right now. So I felt it was important enough to get that out to you guys, at least to some capacity. But as you can imagine, it's, like a doctor's office and you got to buy expensive equipment, it's expensive technology. So there's also other portions that we're going to do. So in Gemini, the oldest of the rockets, we're going to give you the basics, but it isn't a lot of information, at least on a very real-time basis. We will have everything your account manager will set up as your QuickBooks integration, input of your business summary, projections, strategy, which you can have input to, your personal summary strategy, either through your tax return or any other information you want to provide. You'll get a quarterly projection summary, like I showed you, that'll give you what your estimated taxes are starting to look like. It'll refine every quarter, but it's going to tell you every quarter for the year, this is what things are looking like. To me, that's very valuable information in and of itself, because it's also going to start to say, you're going to learn early on, do I really need to engage in some of this stuff early and not wait till November? Okay. Then there's Apollo. We surely went to the moon at one point in time. So we're going to upgrade. We're going to upgrade what's available to you at a cost of $99 a month. Which to me, I think this is all small fee, considering it works out to, at the end of the day, this is all a lot cheaper than paying for, it's actually ended up almost half the price of tax planning, even if you got the Orion one over here. And those of you that have paid for tax planning will understand that. So at $99 a month, you obviously get everything that's free. You're going to get the portal. Okay. So you'll have that dashboard so you can actually mess with it yourself, which is kind of fun. You'll have the simulator, what if scenario module, unlimited forecasts, obviously the vault access, you'll have access to so that you can fine tune that. You have one-on-one financial quarterly overviews with your account manager. And, so that you can actually work through those. So that's included. So it's basically taking that to the next level for sure. And then what Orion is going to do, which is $29 more a month, okay, is we're giving you all that, but we're also going to give you the planning module with the path to zero tax strategy information in there. And like I said, none of this is going to cover everything. None of this is going to replace human intervention. I'm a big believer of that. And, you're going to get, at this point, monthly tax planning projections, unlimited meetings. Like, you want to talk every month, do these and tweak a forecast. That's what you're paying for. And then you're going to get in fourth quarter a full tax planning meeting to just make sure that you stayed on track. It doesn't include implementation. None of my tax planning ever does, because implementation can mean lots of different things on different strategies. Some of them I can't even implement, like retirement plans. So that's just that kind of disclaimer. Even if you decide, hey, this is cool, but I don't think I make enough to even really worry about tax planning. I usually get a refund because I got 8 kids or whatever the case may be. Gemini here is totally fine. And if it starts showing you, by the third quarter that things aren't maybe looking a little bit worse than you thought, there are upgrades down the road in the fourth quarter that you can add on. Like at the end of the year, if you're like, okay, I had all this now, but I need to, I decided it's showing me something I don't want to see and I want to upgrade, or I want to add on it's a tax planning, but it's not as expensive it was. It's like $4.99. We're doing add-ons, so you can do this. So it works out to be cheaper, but you're not getting the information as early on as you might have had you done it this way. So that's how we're rolling out this new, I think, really excited. I got really excited, and that's kind of nerdy, but I really did, on being able to put this out there. I'm coming back to my screen. Oh, look at the baby. Sorry, baby nerd. So I wanted to see what kind of questions you guys might have. And any, in your process of looking at your financials, working with us, tax planning, anything like that. Does anybody have any questions?
Deirdre, I have a question. This is Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
Can this interface with your brokerage account so you can kind of see projections of capital gains or what's, scenario between short and long term?
It does not interface with other outside softwares. However, you can pull those statements and we can put those into the simulator module.
Okay. And then I'm sure you covered it and I just missed it. What do you mean the vault? Like we get access to the vault?
The vault is just
vault is there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the vault is just where in the software, I'll pop back over here and show you. And there'll be nothing in it because I'm not disclosing personal information for anyone here, but this is where we would actually upload tax returns. They could be mocked, they could be real, they could be, upgraded every year, whatever the case may be. So you have the ability to do that yourself in here, as opposed to maybe just coming in here and hand entering it. It's better information because it allows the software, the AI in the background, to get more details than what this will allow.
So like in that scenario, then I upload my brokerage statement to the vault.
Not brokerage. It'll only read tax returns, but your tax returns likely have a Schedule D in there. So it'll base it on, okay, last year my capital gains were $10,000 and whatever it's reading in there, okay, it's going to pull from your return and use that in your tax forecast for this year. Now, if you're like, well, I don't think I'm going to do as good, or you know what, I've just heavily invested in Tesla and I'm doing really great right now and I think it's going to be a lot higher, then we can, in the simulator, adjust that number to where you think it's going to be, but it won't read the statements, because your brokerage statements, if you think about the way a brokerage, most people can't read a brokerage statement to begin with, but you're looking at holdings, and sometimes there's transactions listed in them, but they're not always, it's not the full detail of a stock transaction. It's not what I buy it for, what I sell it for, what, you know what I'm saying? So it can't do that. That's not the intent. The biggest part of this is the aggregating of the information and tying it to the businesses that you're running, because they're passed through, right? And we never have a good enough information. Even as accountants, I'm looking at your business. I'm not necessarily looking at what you're doing over here. If you're, have all these rental properties, or you're doing this, I don't get that information until it's time to do your tax return. This allows us to bring all of that together. It's not going to read everything or automate it. It's not like mint.com where we can log into everything and it's just pulling it all through. And maybe someday somebody will do that. But right now, it does not. Any other questions? No, I'm hungry. Oh, hi, Matt.
A quick one. For those of us who have multiple owners and business partners, how does this?
Good question. So what's really cool, and I brought that up, I said, some people, they have a partner and another one, and all they say is, I get a K1 at the end of the year, but they handle all the accounting. I don't have any access to it, whatever that looks like, or you do have access to it, but you're only 50% owner, and you don't want to have the implication of all of it affecting you. It allows us to put, on the front end, when we do the connection, it allows us to tell it what percentage of ownership we have in that particular business and what type of business, so that it knows how it's going to treat that pass-through income. So it is smart enough. That part is all built in on the front end when you set it up.
And then are each one of the business partners going to have their own individual interface?
No. So, I mean, I'm offering this to my clients that we do the accounting for. So if we do your accounting, you're going to have this. However, you may have other businesses that you want to understand how it affects you, and we allow that to be tied in as well. But if your business partner is not working with us, they don't have access to this. However, they could. This is something that we're looking at expanding out to the public, as far as we may not be your bookkeeping accountant. You love your accountant, or your mom does your taxes. I don't know. But you really like the idea of bringing all this together. We are going to be able to eventually roll this out past our own clientele to say, great, you can license it just like anyone else, and you can, put your information in there, and there you go. And then your partner would have access to it. Does that make sense?
One clarification on it. So basically, if you file the individual returns for partners in an S corp, then this would be applicable to each partner, but anybody you don't file their personal returns for would not.
Correct.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions, Matt?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Hey,
Hi, Matt.
so if I wanted to do some scenario planning around offering employees different or other benefits, such as 401k match at different levels, or something like that, is that the kind of information that could flow through here? And
Yep.
we could do,
Absolutely.
some what ifs?
That's
Okay.
the type of stuff we're talking about. Almost anything that affects your business, what if scenarios, easily handled. Personal
Okay.
will have a few limitations, but for the most part, it's pretty robust.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else? No? Dinner time? All right, it's time for a glass of wine.
Just real quick,
Yeah.
for the scenario planning, if we go with the $99 thing, is that something that we have control to run whatever scenarios we want?
Absolutely.
Or do we contact you guys to say, hey, can you run this scenario for me?
Nope, that's the idea. You have control. You can sit there all night and play with it and run your own scenarios if you want.
Sounds so fun.
Doesn't
All
it?
right,
It
thank you.
actually is. I'm telling you something. I guinea pigged it on myself. I'm not going to lie. And, you know, I have different things going on and I have rental properties, and it took me a while to get everything in there. But I was like, wow, this is really cool. And oh my gosh, I should do my own tax planning because I'm really scared all of a sudden, you know, because I don't make time for myself. But I'm like, it was really, and I know what I'm doing as far as like when I'm putting my taxes together and I start them early and I could see, I'm like, it was very accurate. I did mine in a look back for 2020. I mean, knowing I can't really do anything else about it. And it was pretty accurate. I mean, it's, you know, garbage in, garbage out. You take the time to put good information there, you're going to get good information out. So those scenarios that you're running, as long as you're not affecting your data in a negative way, is cool, because you're going to see how little things can make big differences.
Can you put that chart up again of the different packages?
Sure can.
And we are recording this whole meeting because Dee's going to go pop star on us. So
No, I'm
we
just
are going to send it out to everyone.
so you can look at it again, because it's almost as exciting as Chicago Fire.
No,
It was just the last TV show that I watched, but whatever.
Can you guys send out a copy of the PowerPoint too, just so we can look at some of the presentation stuff in more detail?
Sure, Mike,
Sure.
for you, I have no problem. No, I'll send it out to everybody. Not a problem. So if you have no other questions, and even if you think of something later, you know, you guys, you know how to get a hold of me, that phone, email, call me tomorrow, whatever the case may be. Yeah, just let me know. I think this is cool stuff. See, you could tell when I get excited. So I think it's really cool. Nancy, you look really excited.
She's like, what's going on?
She doesn't realize she's muted, but that's okay. Oh, hi.
Hi.
The baby's
Hi.
waving.
So cute.
All right. Well, then we'll leave it here right now. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. I think this is going to be the future, really, and the way we do things. So I hope you all have a good night.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks, Sandra.